Uh, you'll probably see that come across. And I will post this to the RV Weather YouTube channel when we're done. So I know several subscribers have told me they wanted to see this, but weren't able to come on. So what we'll do is I'm just going to go through very quickly the weather situation. My guess is you would have to be living under a very deep, dark cave, probably 10 time zones away from the United States, not to know something about this. I have a confession to make. I actually look at very little social media for a variety of reasons, but everything I've seen says it would be really, really hard not to know something about this storm. So what I'm going to do is share my screen if I can do that. I think I can. Uh, let's see. There we go. And I'm just going to walk through. Okay, good. I think y'all see my see a screen there. I'm actually going to go. There we go. Move that there to just really the first basic pattern. So I think everybody knows there are really, three things with this storm that are pretty unusual. And the first is really just the geographic extent. I mean, we've got winter storm warnings all the way from New Mexico and Colorado, and they're extending out up into New England. So this covers, probably over half the country, and certainly population-wise, it's about two-thirds of the population. If you're on the West Coast, you're wondering what's going on, but everybody else is gonna have to deal with this. The second thing that we will see, and I'll show you when I get to the weather impacts graphics there, is there's an awful lot of ice with this storm. So yes, some of the northern mid-Atlantic states, the Northeast is gonna see very substantial snow accumulations. Some of the Midwest, but a tremendous amount of ice, and really two locations. One is going to be, I'd say, the lower Mississippi Valley up into the mid-South, so kind of northern Mississippi, western Tennessee. They could see up to an inch of ice, which will be really bad. The secondary area of ice is going to be the mid-Atlantic, and really, I would say Virginia, Southwest Virginia, but even Central Virginia, places like Richmond could have a big ice problem. The Northeast, yes, we're going to see snow. Is it going to be historic? Probably not. 1 foot it's a big snowstorm. I mean, you don't want to go tow around in it or drive the RV, but but I'm not sure that it would, it's not in that 2 to 3 feet range or 3 or more feet, but it'll certainly be a disruptive storm. What comes after this storm is and people have talked about it, but I think we're really gonna live this part of the dream next week, is just how cold and how persistently cold it's going to be behind the storm. So places that can do snow removal, I mean, it's just going to be miserable. So like if you live in the Northeast or Pennsylvania or places, yeah, the roads will get cleared up, probably by Monday, midday, Monday afternoon. They'll be okay. It's just going to be really, really cold. Where it's going to, I think, really impact is that cold goes all the way down to the Gulf. So places that get either the freezing rain or snow, like mid-Atlantic, again, mid-South, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, places that really, the Carolinas, their idea of snow melt is wait for the sun to come up and for it to come out and for it to warm up. It could be a long slog, and especially if you're missing power there. So that's kind of what's going on with the storm. Really, by Saturday and Sunday are the two big days. So on Saturday, it's ice and it's getting out into the mid-Atlantic, and the snow gets into the, central part of the US. And then Sunday, the storm moves more to the East Coast. It's mostly Eastern time zone, but still hanging back into the Mississippi Valley. If you're on the Gulf Coast, something not as talked about, but you could sort of from I-10 from Houston to Pensacola, you could easily see some pretty strong to even severe thunderstorms. They're not going to get very far north. It's just too cold for that. But you can see the Storm Prediction Center and our own weather outlook shows that as well. Let me just I'll put this in animation here. So here's our weather impacts, and I'm just going to let this run. So this is starting this evening. So here's Saturday. And all this dark red and purple in here, level 4 or 5 on our scale, this is ice. This is primarily ice. This is snow up in Missouri here. And we'll let it continue. So here's Sunday morning. And you can kind of see these two areas again, ice in the mid-south and ice in the mid-Atlantic. Up to the north, let's say north of I-70, this is going to be mostly snow. There may be some ice getting up into southeastern Pennsylvania, but by and large, this is going to be snow. And again, on my scale of, most of us, we don't want to drive in the orange. This is dark orange and red, so you definitely don't want to be, working your RV through here. And you can see it then moves up into New England by Sunday night into Monday. And that's pretty much how the storm's going to be. So I'll just roll it back there. All these colors up here in Canada, this is just cold air. So on the scale we're on, and we've just put an upgrade out a couple days ago. When you look at temperature only, and I think most people know, but if you want to look at one impact only, go up to impacts on the upper right of your screen. So let's look at temperature. And there we go. So anything in the yellow is air temperature below 0. Orange is below -15. And when you get to dark orange, that's -30. And these are actual air temperatures. These are not the wind chills. These are actual air temperatures. And you can see really, here's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This cold air is really, really hanging in there. So that's something we're gonna deal with. The other thing I'll just quickly show you there is like when you want to see like which is snow and which is ice, this can be kind of useful for that. So, here we go. We're starting with the ice pretty much right now. North central Texas into Oklahoma. See it move into Arkansas over through Saturday. This is like Saturday afternoon here. Again, Mississippi Valley coming up into Tennessee, Texas, and again, but still really hanging in there, even Sunday morning. Again, still an ice storm. The Weather Service is looking at, an inch or so of ice potentially. That is just not going to be good. I think a lot of this in Virginia is going to be a freezing rain and sleet mix. I hope it's mostly sleet. More sleet is much less disruptive than the freezing rain. Could even get up into southeast Pennsylvania, New Jersey by Sunday night, and then and that's pretty much it for the ice. And we'll look at snow. And here we go for the snow. So to the north, as usual, of the freezing rain. There's even snow right now in the Colorado Rockies down into New Mexico. That moves out really along the Ohio Valley and just a little bit south. Snow into the mid-Atlantic again by Saturday evening, and then spreads really, again, from New Mexico all the way to New Jersey here by Sunday morning. So big storm, and then pushes into the Northeast and New England Sunday night into Monday. So that's the snow. I will show you winds. And one of the things we can do with winds, so just as a reminder, and people don't need to memorize these scales, you can click on like, yellow. What does yellow mean? And we'll tell you right here. So this is like wind gust 20 to 30. If you get up into the orange, it's 30 to 40. But one thing we've added just a couple days ago is you see this kind of like what looks like a wind icon here in the lower right. You click on it, you now get wind vectors. I hope you can see those on the screen, but they are the wind vectors. You'll only see them not when it's animating, but when it's stopped here. And they are basically proportional to the speed. So longer, faster moving wind vectors, higher speeds. Now you can get, of course, the magnitude, off the colors. Where you really don't see wind vectors at all, that means it's near calm conditions. So like if you're towing or driving your RV, it's winds aren't a factor. You kind of see wind vectors, let's say here around Dallas up to Oklahoma City, you see some wind vectors. You're not even into the gust to 20, but if you're like me and sensitive with your awning, you might want to, at least look at your awning or bring your awning in for that. So we'll just move this forward. It's kind of, by the time you get to Sunday afternoon here, you can see, with the low pressures are in the northern hemisphere, the counterclockwise circulations, and you can see this low here is really just right off Cape Hatteras. This is just kind of a classic winter storm situation for the East Coast. So I wanted to show people the wind vectors because that was new. Another thing that has changed is when you go to your trip, and I'm on just a test account here that's not the admin account, is you can actually, if you have a trip that you want to keep or you just don't want to keep looking through all your various trips and digging through it, you can actually click on the three vertical buttons or three vertical dots, I should say, on the lower right of your trip card right here. And if you click on it, you can click archive. And if you click archive, it goes to the, not surprisingly, archived parts. So if you have, let's say you're a snowbird and you just do let's say, I don't know, Wisconsin to Florida, twice a year or something, you could actually put that trip in here. Or conversely, maybe you're working on your big summer trip, but you've got little ones in between. You could, put your big summer trip over here, and then when you're ready to use it, click on the unarchive, and it comes back to the main active area there. So let me stop there. I'm going to stop sharing the screen just for now. And I'm really gonna open this up to questions. I know we have a lot of new people. Thank you for subscribing. Really, in the last 2 or 3 months, we've picked up a lot of people. If you've got any questions on like how to use RV weather, if you've got any questions on this storm, if you've got any just general weather and RV questions, I'm happy to take them. If you're able to, under React on Zoom, if you click on it, there should be a place where you could raise your hand, and I'll just go through the questions in order, and we'll run this for, until the top of the hour or so. If we're done sooner, we're done sooner, but I did want to give people an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have. So let me see. There's a couple things in the chat here. Let me stop there. And who has a question? iPhone i86. That's a great name, but let's if you could unmute and we'll go from there.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, iPhone, your name is showing up as iPhone 186. You're the first hand up.
Hi, I'm
Okay.
iPhone 186.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have a question. We've been using your app your program for a few years. We're traveling from Michigan down to Florida. We were going to leave Sunday, but we've of course changed that to Monday.
Mhm.
We were wondering, do you think the ice will be off I-75 in Tennessee and Georgia by Monday? In Kentucky, do they have the capabilities to clear that?
That's a really good question. I would, unless somebody has like actual local knowledge on here, I would check those DOT websites, those Department of Transportation websites, like probably the night before you actually get there. You might have to wait an extra day or two. Uh, I know coming back from South Carolina from the Tampa RV show last year, we had that big storm on I-10 and then in the Carolinas. Uh, South Carolina, not to throw South Carolina under the bus, but their idea of dealing with the freezing rain and the ice was let the truck smash it down for about 5 days and then you'll be okay. Uh, so I don't know, but I would be cautious, and I would absolutely check the DOT websites. Another place that you can kind of get that information uh, is if you call up just basic Google Maps and you turn the live traffic on. If you see a whole lot of oranges and reds on those interstates, when it's not any big cities or anything like that,
Mhm.
that's that's telling you that life ain't great
Oh,
on
okay.
there.
Great.
So
Great
those
suggestions.
are two things, at least like when I'm having to deal with winter and towing and stuff, those are two things I do. Hope
Uh,
that helps.
Thank you. That really did. Thanks so
Okay.
much.
Hey, Rich, your hand is up. Rich or Cindy, and welcome. And yeah, what do you got?
Well, thank you very much. I have two questions, David. The first of which is when we see hurricanes and tropical systems, we often hear of the GFS model and the European model. Are
Mhm.
those the same type of weather models that are used for winter storms, or is that just a tropical kind of thing?
That's a great question, Rich. Thanks. It turns out that these models, the what we call the global models, so like the GFS, which is the global forecast system, and the Europe, the European model run by European Center for Medium Range Forecasting, they're both global, so they will go from the equator to the poles, and they will handle basically all kinds of these of weather. So whether it's blizzards or high winds out west or tropical systems, monsoons in Asia, uh, these models, it's just equations that tell us how the fluid dynamics. I mean, that's really all meteorology is. It's applied fluid dynamics. It just moves the atmosphere around in them. So we do have, and the Weather Service has, some what we call some of these regional models, and you can move them. And the Hurricane Center does have access to like a specialized suite of models that will, help them with intensity. The global models on hurricanes are really quite good on track. They're not as good. They've got a lot better in the last decade or so, but they're still not as good on intensity. So the Weather Service has a few extra ones that we can look at for there. The Weather Service in the US, actually in other countries as well, we do have some high resolution models that really help us like pinpoint like where the highest snow totals may be, and it, captures the details of the terrain. So that you may hear of some, on TV, somebody occasionally refers to like the high resolution refresh model or the HER model. That's a regional model. It only runs out to 2 days. These global models run out to about 15 days or so. But basically, yeah, we're taking that, and what we're doing in RV weather is I use something called the National Blend of Models. So my guess is a lot of people here remember Hurricane Sandy, and that was maybe the first time in the kind of public consciousness that this debate, if you will, or differentiation between the American models and the European models came up. So after Sandy, and I know this because I was NOAA's chief operating officer at the time, uh, I would say NOAA from a, in some ways did good enough so that nobody got fired, but we did bad enough that the Congress said, "Hey, you guys need more money," because the European model in that case happened to do a better job than the American model. One of the things NOAA did with that money is we said, we need kind of a different approach rather than like trying to guess in advance which is the best model, sort of like stock picking. And unless you're Peter Magellan or Peter Lynch or Warren Buffett. Most of us aren't that great at stock picking, but we can all do index investing, right? So we sort of built the national blend of models. It's index investing for weather. We actually take so what you see when I look at the screen here is that wind forecast. If I can do the right buttons on Zoom, that wind forecast is based on up to 171 different models and the variations of those models. So one of the things, and and I don't, of course, I'm a weather geek, so I've been following this thing pretty closely. But if you've been looking at sort of those impacts, like be it rain, the ice, the snow impacts, I'll put it onto all of the impacts here. They've actually been pretty consistent day to day, run to run. So, I mean, I've seen a couple of the YouTube headlines. Oh my God, everything's changed. It's this, it's that, it's much worse. Well, there are some models, within the runs, they sort of burble around a little bit. But when you take 171 of these things and you average them out, we're kind of getting the signal and we're tamping down the noise, if that makes sense. So what we've really been seeing out of the weather impacts that we run based on the MBM is pretty consistent data. It's really been saying this ice storm is going to be a big deal for where we've talked about it and snow, etc. But it hasn't been like, every 6 hours is like, oh my God, it's different. And the reason I like that is because ultimately, I'm trying to give everybody routing recommendations, right? So we don't want to tell somebody in the morning, hey, you should be on I-90. And then in the afternoon, after the new models come in, oh, we meant I-70. It's like, no, we mean I-80. That is not going to work for anybody. So we need not only something that's correct, that's right, but we want something that does, that is consistent. It is not going like this every few hours there. So that's kind of a long answer, Rich. I apologize for that, but I hope that makes sense. So yeah, the short answer is, yeah, these are global models. They handle it all. And yeah, and we certainly incorporate both the GFS and the Euro and the UK model and the Canadian model and the Japanese model. All of that is going into what you see in RV weather.
Awesome, David. Thank you very much. My second question is less technical. What do you think the probabilities are that Jim Cantore is going to see some thunder snow up in the Northeast?
It's possible. When we look at where the greatest, I'm gonna put this on thunderstorms here. And you can see just offshore, if he was in Hatteras, he'd have a better chance, but I don't think they're sending him there. I saw some picture somewhere that I don't know where they're sending
I
him.
think he's going to New York City.
I don't know. Yeah, wherever. I mean, I hate to admit it. I shouldn't admit this, but I haven't watched those guys in 20 years. Because I can't do the hype. I just can't. It's too exhausting for me. But you look at where these thunderstorms are, the I-10 definitely has the
Show the map.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Kathy pops in and says, "You're not sharing your screen." It's like, yeah, you're right. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Kathy. So here on you can see where the greatest chance for thunderstorms are. So again, along the Gulf Coast, I-10, but also Hatteras. So if you're out in eastern North Carolina, so there's a chance, but to get any of the thunderstorm shading on here, I need at least a 10% chance of having a thunderstorm at all. And so we're under those probabilities for where well, for the Northeast and where Cantore is probably going to get himself stationed.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Who else has a question? Somebody's got to have a question. What would you like to know about? I think I've talked about, let's see, I've talked about the archive features, talked about the wind vectors. Another thing that we did change on that I think I mentioned, but I'll make sure I mention it. Compared to what we had operationally a few days ago, we had a much higher temperature level set for temperatures. I think it was like you would see the yellow shading at plus 25 degrees Fahrenheit and the orange shading at plus 10. And I realized it was just kind of like dominating the country. So we have moved these down in the low temperature to, as I said, it's 0. The orange is minus 15 and the dark orange is minus 30, and it goes deeper than that. And again, this is not a, nobody has to memorize these things. There's not a quiz at the end or anything like that. But if you see colors and it's like, now, what does that mean? What did that Titley guy say? You can just click on them, right? You can just click on them like, so for the yellow, and it's like, oh, okay, so less than 0 or greater than 100. I can remember that. And that's how that goes. We've done some little things as well. We've actually reduced the default opacity. Once again, yes, I'm going to be told I'm not sharing the screen. Yes, I'm told I'm not sharing my screen. There we go. Okay, we'll eventually get this right here by the end of the night here. Okay, so here we go. Here's temperature. And as I said, the yellow is the 0. And if you want to remember or look up what those thresholds are, all you have to do is just click on the icons with the little faces and the colors down at the lower right, and we'll tell you. So there you go. Temperature less than 0 or greater than 100 there. So some other things we've done is we've actually reduced somewhat the opacity to start with. I think it makes it easier to read the roads and things like that. Something you may or may not know, I almost always use it just with this light map, but you can shift over to dark. Dark I don't usually use, but the terrain can be useful sometimes. And satellite can be useful as well. Terrain, especially if you want to see like, okay, am I going through hills? Am I going through, whatever it is? And then of course you can always, play with the opacity to set it whatever you want. So I'm just going to put it back to here. Let me show everybody while I'm on this. I'm going to go to all conditions, and I'll show you another thing that I do when I'm planning my own routes that I've found useful. I don't know if anybody else will, but I have, as I think everybody knows, sort of this sky blue, which we're seeing, let's say out in desert Southwest and off California, actually down into Mexico. This is like, great conditions. This is whoever sold you your RV. They promised you every day was going to be like this. It's sunny, it's nice, it's beautiful, chasing 70. And then, yeah, there's a lot of yellow. Almost all of us, I think, are, we're okay in yellow. It's, again, those wind gusts, 20 to 30. It's some light rain, maybe a snow flurry, but really not much more than snow flurries, no ice, no thunderstorms, all that kind of stuff. I mean, so it's like, yeah, that it's not great, but we can all deal with it. I'll sometimes turn these off. And the way you can turn off those, so you see on here, visible weather impact layers. Click on it, and you see if you click on it, all the great weather went away. Click on that slight impact, and that goes away. And now when I look at the map, I just visually, before I even put a route in, I just kind of know it's like, these are the colors I don't want to be in, so anything from orange or dark orange, reds, certainly the level 5, the purple stuff. But that's just a way I'll sometimes use this if I'm just really concentrating on making sure that I know where not to be. And then, I can always turn these back on to kind of get the full picture. So here, I will stop sharing. Hopefully I'll remember to share it again when the time is there. But that's just take that for what it's worth, but it's something I've found has been useful for me personally when looking at these routes. Does anybody else have any questions or any comments there? Rich.
Sorry, David, it's me again.
No, that's great.
So when we
Otherwise,
were
I mean,
playing,
otherwise I talk to myself, and as my students at Penn State know, I'm more than capable of doing that for an hour, but I'm not sure that's a good use of anyone's time.
so when we were planning our routes recently, I tried to do a day of, and it said, nope, you can't do a day of. You got to do it like in advance. Is there any plans to say be able to do the functionality of I get up in the morning and I just want to see plan a route that day?
I think you can we could dig into this, but I am about 90% sure, like if you put in a day of and you get that error message, you say it can't run, it may be because the real time, the clock time right now is, let's say, 9 a.m. and you're putting in like an 8 a.m. or a 7 a.m. start. So you can't start before, but if you're at 9 and you say, well, I'm going to get on the road at 9:30, it should run.
Okay.
So let's check that again. I have I'm about 90% sure that 95% sure that's correct. But if are putting in a time, it's like, hey, Titley, this is, in the future and I'm getting that error. Please let me know. I'll test that again.
Okay.
But yeah, but I've been caught sometimes on that is like it's 9 o'clock and I still put in, start at 8:30 and the thing, yells at me. It's like you can't do that. And it's like, okay.
Okay. I'll check on that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Anyone else? Okay, well, let me ask another question here that isn't just this. Anybody on the road or trying to escape from this storm right now, or is everybody kind of pretty happy with where they are, or at least if not happy, at least you think you're safe with where you are? You don't have to raise your hand. You can just like whatever.
We're in Vermont, so we're used to this. So we're just gonna,
Yeah, this is just another day in January, right?
yeah, this is no shorts weather for us.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, you might want to bring the dog in, that sort of thing. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people commenting about worries about the snow being on their Airstream, like the weight of the snow on their
Hmm.
Airstream, whether that's going to be a problem for their RV. It's never been a problem for us, but I've kind of heard some chatter on that.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Rich, I mean, we've got an Airstream as well, and I know we have had, I think when we first bought it, we've had probably up to about a foot of snow on it. And I think, and I'm trying to remember, I mean, this would be this is where I wish we had an Airstream engineer or at least somebody, and maybe we do. If anybody's an RV tech or RV engineer, please, jump in. But I think for these kind of snows, in which you're probably going to get maybe an inch of water equivalent, inch to inch and a half of water equivalent, uh, the structure is, we're gonna be okay on on those. And I'm gonna go back and share my screen because I do want to show there's some places that we can look at this information. And here we go. So where I am, just so everybody knows, is, we spend most of our time, or I spend most of our time, looking at the weather impacts and looking at SureRoute. And, for the old timers here, we used to call this Wilma. I just call it weather impacts now. But if you go to the free section, the weather hub, and you can just click on that and scroll on down. You can I've got a lot of graphics for today's weather for the next 7 days, and even the outlooks out to a few weeks. So we'll just look at the next 7 days. And what I wanted to show you, and this gets to uh, Rich's comment here, is you can look at total precipitation amount. So this is like what falls out of the sky, whether it's ice or rain or snow. And you can click on any of these graphics to make them bigger. So I hope you can all see them. This tells you, in liquid equivalent, how much you could get. So most of us, let's say south of the Ohio Valley. Yeah, certainly south of I-70. But south of the Ohio Valley, we're looking at 1 to 2.5 inches. So if all of that fell as ice, I'd be careful. That's probably a fair amount of weight. But let's say for Rich, for you and me, so I'm in Pennsylvania, you're up in Vermont, we're in this 1/2 inch to 1.5 inch, and I'm pretty sure, at least for Airstreams, when they look at that weight distributed on a roof, we're okay for, few days, maybe a few weeks, something like that. But this is, this is just one specific graphic. But if you're curious about either, how much ice, wind chill forecast for, the next 24 hours, heat index, we're not too worried about heat index right now, but we will be in a few weeks, or at least a few months from now. And so on. And, when the severe weather season starts really going here in a few weeks, we'll show you not only the overall outlook for severe thunderstorms, but you can look at the hail probability specifically for hail, or specifically wind or tornado. I do have, if I can remember where they are. Well, let me scroll through. I'm sorry. I know looking at somebody else scrolling can sometimes feel like a little hard. But one thing, if you scroll down through the 7-day outlook, I do have these high resolution animations out to 48 hours, out to 2 days. So just a weather radar, you can look at, kind of just what you're going to see on TV or a lot of other places, but we've got it. Wind gusts, total snowfall, and anything in that purple there is getting to be over a foot. But one thing that I was requested to put on, and I think a few people at least find it useful, is we have hail size. So again, this is not a issue for this storm, but as we all get in our rigs, in the springtime, and we start going around, whether it's the Southeast or Texas, up into the Ohio Valley, hail, at least with what Rich and I have, hail and Airstream certainly don't mix, but I don't think hail mixes well really with any RV. And so you can take a look at the hail size on this one. And then as we get later in the summer, the wildfire smoke for people, especially if they're sensitive, or even just things like, which are the good days to go view the mountains versus which are days that maybe it's better for an indoor activity where there may be some filtration on the air, and so on. And you can look through these. So these are on this weather hub. It says free. It is. You don't need a subscription. You're at a campfire, you can give this link or tell somebody to go there. There's no sales involved. I just put this out kind of as I guess as a service, if you will, to the RV community, and I know at least some people find that useful. So I will stop sharing that. So I don't know, any questions on that? Anyone else have, either if you're in a place or you're trying to get to someplace, have any questions? Hearing none. Well, Rich, I'm glad you were here. Otherwise, this would have been an exceptionally short time.
I love weather like you.
Well, I'm glad you guys made it back, and I posted your last video actually up on my RV weather Facebook page there, because I thought it was a nice, even though you had to go to New Jersey, I'm sorry about that, but
I-81 through Pennsylvania would have been a disaster.
it would have been
would have gone through there.
unpleasant. Yeah, it would have been, I think, really unpleasant. And, and I saw you, I think in the video you said, it's in the upper 30s, and you could see it was rain, and it's not that great, but yeah, compared to trying to get through Wilkes-Barre and Scranton and points north, in the mountains, or coming over the high terrain on 84, yeah, that would have been pretty sporting for you there.
We don't like sporting when it
No,
weather.
I don't. I'm kind of a wimp. You know, I've towed in snow in Yellowstone, and we've got a 30-foot trailer. The scariest part about that, I mean, it was actually the traction was okay, but I come around this corner and there is this tourist in the middle of the road doing her Instagram thing. And she and I locked eyes and she just got out of the way. Uh, but you know, it's like I can't stop. And you're sitting in the middle of the road on a blind corner in the snow, and it's like this is not good. Uh, so that was my snow thing. I don't like doing that. So anyways, okay. Well, unless here, I'll just ask one more time. Does anyone have anything for me? Any questions on how to use SureRoute or anything like uh, that? Okay, well, in that case, thank you all so much for joining. What I'm probably going to do is we used to do this when I had a much smaller subscriber base, is we did this about every month. We may try to get back, especially in the spring. People are, you know, getting out and they're using some of this stuff the first time. It's just another way to, you know, kind of go through, you know, how to use the program, or just, you know, quickly answer any questions, like Rich's on, you know, getting it to work on the same day and stuff like that. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And I will put this up on our Facebook page, or I'm sorry, I'll put a link on the Facebook group, but I'll also put it actually out on the RV Weather YouTube site. Okay. Thanks again. Stay safe this weekend and be safe on the road. Thanks so much. Take care.